Okay, everyone, it's 12 o'clock here on the West Coast. We're going to go ahead and get started. I see we've got lots of people down there in the chat box. If you haven't already signed in down to the chat, you can do that there if you're watching this live. And you should be able to see me and hear me okay. I'll do a screen share here in a minute, but I wanted to make sure I could let you put a face to the voice here. So if you can see me okay and you can hear me okay, could you please just let me know down in the chat box that everything's working and coming through on your end? I don't want to get into the important stuff until I know that all of the techie stuff is working. So if someone down there could just leave me a little note that you can see and hear everything okay, we'll get started. And then, yeah, and then we'll switch over to a screen share and we'll get right into it. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. So if you are having any tech difficulties, if you can hear me but not see me, or see me but not hear me, well, if you can't hear me, obviously you don't know what I'm going to tell you, but refreshing the page at any point should just catch you right up. So even if there's a lag at some point, you should be able to catch right up there. So Lori says she can hear me. Awesome. Can you see me too? I want to make sure you can see the screen. Rowan's good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to get right into it here. So I'm going to share my screen, but I wanted to say hi so you could see my face before we got started. And thank you for joining me today. So let's see, we're going to get right into, there we go. All right, so you should be able to see my screen here. Can everyone see my screen? Go ahead. I think there's like a 30-second delay between the video coming through and you guys being able to see it. So if you could let me know in the chat box that this switched over and you can see my screen, then we can get started. All right, we're good. Okay. So we're going to get started. Sorry, if you saw that pop up, my father in Germany just tried to call me now of all times, but he'll have to wait. All right, so we're going to get started here. So today we're going to talk about tricks to setting up amazing learning spaces. And if you're joining me live, you can engage right there down in the chat box. And if you are watching this as a replay, then I don't think that you can, access the chat box then. So if you're watching this through the replay and you have any questions at any point, feel free to email me or find me in my Facebook group and I can answer them then. So let's see if I can skip this way. There we go. Nope, it's going to make me scroll. Okay, last time I did this, I had to do it in Keynote and it wouldn't just do a full screen. So anyway, here we go. Okay, so first of all, just to some housekeeping things so we can get the most out of our time together today. Shut down any distractions that you are able to. So if you have Facebook open or you have your phone turned on or your Instagram's up, go ahead and turn all of those off. I'm going to go pretty quickly because I have a lot of information and I don't want to take up all of your Sunday afternoon. I'm really thankful that you took the time to join me live today. So I don't want to take up too much time. So if you can shut down any of those distractions, go ahead and do that. I have my kids away with Legos and books and other things that should keep them entertained with daddy for about an hour. So if you can close off the kid distractions too, that'd be great, but I understand. You might even hear mine come running in at some point as well. I also recommend grabbing some paper and a pen. Like I said, I'm gonna be throwing lots at you. I've got lots of tips and tricks and ideas, and then I also have lots of photos that I'm going to share you as well from other people's spaces for good inspiration. And I know that we're all busy. I see you guys introducing yourself in the chat box. We all have little ones and jobs and all kinds of things. So, you know, when we think of great ideas, it's kind of like filing them away in a box that we're never going to open again. But if you write something down, you're much more likely to implement it and take action on it. So if you have you know, a pen and a paper, take a second to go grab something. That way, as something comes up and intrigues you or interests you as we're going through the webinar, you write that down and then you're more likely to come back to it instead of just kind of forgetting about it with the busyness of life. Definitely engage with us down in the chat box below. I see lots of conversation already going on down there. That's awesome. So if you are just now joining us here, please go ahead and you know, introduce yourself in the chat box and chat along with us. And then stick around until the end. I'm going to do a Q&A. I have a fun freebie that I'm going to give you. I have something special to share with those of you, especially those of you that are new to me here. But yeah, if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and type them in the chat box, and then I'll come back to them when I when I get down. Sorry, my father is blowing up my computer here trying to get a hold of me. It's my little brother's birthday. So anyway, that's irrelevant. So yeah, if you have any questions along the way, keep those. I'll answer them all at the end. That'll just be easier for me so I can go right through it here with you. So we're going to get really right into it here. Here we go. So I want to ask you some questions first. So please, there's a little bit of a lag between when I talk and when it comes through for you. So I'm going to give a pause after each one of these so that you can answer in the chat boxes. But I want to know what you feel right now when you look at your child's learning space or their playroom or their bedroom or whatever space you're thinking about today when you joined this webinar, when you thought about a space that you kind of wanted to transform a little bit. What do you feel when you look at that space? And what do you think your child feels? Because that's something that we don't always think about. We tend to sort of, peruse Pinterest and get all of these great ideas. And then we sort of set up a play space kind of from the perspective of what we think we want, or what we think our child wants, or what we think we might want when we were children. But a lot of times when I work with families or I work with teachers and I work with families who are setting up these spaces, they're upset that their child's not really engaging very much. And when I ask them what they think their child feels, they admit a lot of times that they hadn't really thought about it that way. So, it's something that's important. So what do you think right now about your child's learning space or their playroom? Go ahead and tell me down in the chat box there. How are you feeling right now about your child's space? I see somebody in there already said, Mary Ellen said that, she wants to make some time to get rid of stuff that they no longer need. So maybe you're feeling like it's a little bit cluttered, or it's not quite as organized as you might like it to be. And that's something that I'm going to address today. I'm going to keep moving here. What elements of nature do you see in your space? Because that's something that I'm going to talk about a lot today too. And if you're a member of anything that I've done, if you found me through my Facebook page or my Facebook group, a lot of what I do is talk about bringing natural elements into the learning space. And that's something that I'm going to talk about a lot today too, is ways that you can bring nature in. Kelsey says her space feels cluttered. Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. And then would you like to learn some easy tips to get your child excited about their playroom, and then also learn how to bring nature to your child's indoor learning space? So Rowan says uninviting when it is untidy. Yeah, definitely. So if there's ever a moment when it's kind of cluttered or messy, it doesn't feel like the right kind of space anymore. So it's like two different spaces when it's clean and when it's not, right? Laurie says it's empty right now, but I feel like it's not engaging enough because things are not simple enough. Yeah, that leads right into the conversation of overwhelm, and that's something that I'm going to talk about as well. So good, we've got a lot of good points here that I want to talk about. He tends to play with the most simple things in the room, not his toys. Yeah, my youngest son is 18 months old, and his favorite toys, I'm not joking, he carries these things around the house, are a hammer, not a toy hammer, a real hammer. He knows the difference. A hammer, an old helmet, and a little rubber ball. It does not matter what toy or puzzle or game or activity I put in front of him. Those are the only things he wants to play with: a hammer, a helmet, and a ball. So, it's really true. We have all of these ideas of, a child wanting all of these elaborate, Toys R Us type things, but really the more simple and a lot of times the more natural the objects are, the more likely they are to want to play with them and engage with them. So that's something that we're going to talk about as well. Good. So we have lots of things that we're going to get into here that kind of relate to what you're going through. So that's perfect. So 3 reasons this webinar might be for you. We'll go ahead and hit these right up front. That way, if you're watching the replay and it's not really hitting you, you don't have to go any further. But I think this will be perfect. Thanks. Sorry, I'm late. Oh, don't worry, Lori. We're just getting into it here. We're still in the preliminaries. Okay, so 3 reasons this webinar might be for you. So number 1, you live in a climate like I do, where there are many days when you can't go outside. So, my kids love being outdoors. They play outside all day, every day if we could. But I live in the Pacific Northwest, and we're pretty much entering the season of 3 months of solid rain. So even though we do go out in the rain, a lot of times we can't do it all the time. So it's important for me to be able to bring nature indoors and set up a really engaging space so that they're not going cabin fever crazy all winter. And that's, we moved here this summer, and we used to live in Pennsylvania where we had, 4 months of snow, and that was even more oppressive with needing to be inside. So it's always been really important to me to have a space where my kids could be engaged and, entertained with nature and learning with nature and, keeping themselves occupied and still learning when they couldn't go outside. So that's one reason this webinar is perfect for you. Another reason is if your child doesn't really engage much in the space they already have, and you want to create a more inviting learning space. And a lot of what I'm seeing in the comments kind of fits right here in this category. So, if you find yourself saying to your child, you have a ton of toys, why can't you find something to do? Or go find something to do. Why are you always around me? If you find yourself having those thoughts or saying those things, and your child has this really great space, but they're bored, this is for you. And then another reason this might be for you is if you're already happy with the space you have set up, your child's engaged, but you want to incorporate some more natural elements and find out how you can do that. That's another thing we're going to talk about today as well. So those are 3 reasons why this webinar is perfect for you. And if you fit into one or many of those categories, then this is just great. So I definitely see some new names here on the chat roll list down below. So I want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Leah McDermott. At the beginning here, I showed you my face, but that's me in the photos with my family. That's my husband, Brian, and my boys are Charlie and Desmond. They're 4 and 18 months. And just to introduce myself a little bit, if you're new to me, I began the journey that I'm on now many years ago when, before I had children, I was actually a homeschooled child. My father was in the military, so we moved around a lot, and I was homeschooled. And then I've always had that homeschooling set up, that independent learning mindset for me, and I've always been really passionate about sharing everything I know with other people. That's hence what I'm doing today. But I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, so I went, as soon as high school was over, I went right into college to be a teacher. I got 2 master's degrees in education. I got dual certified as a reading specialist and an elementary teacher. And, I kind of went all in for it. And I got a job in an urban elementary school, sort of, just ready to change the world. And unfortunately, I was met with a lot of disappointment when I realized that my class sizes were bigger every year. The year that I left the job, there were 33 children and 1 of me. And I really believe in the individualized education of every child, and it's impossible to do when there's 35 kids and 1 teacher, especially the pressure I was having from administration to kind of keep the education totally across the board, everybody learning the same thing the same way. And it was really disappointing for me, even though I tried as hard as I could to make those individual learning experiences for the children. It just became more and more difficult. So after I had my oldest son in 2011, I decided not to go back to the classroom. And I wanted to spend, focus my time on educating him and finding a way to help others, with the same passion. And the next year, when he was 1 in 2012, I was really longing to share that knowledge again, like I mentioned. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold here. But so I started a natural living blog, and I kind of was just sharing my family's journey towards a green lifestyle and living on a farm. And naturally, as that progressed and my son got older, I started to share a lot of the activities that I was doing with him every day and, with my followers. And those were the posts that everybody loved. And I started getting more and more people asking me, please share more of what you're doing with your son. That's what we really want to see. So I started sharing more of that. And then when my youngest son was born last spring, at that point, my oldest was almost 3. And so we were really starting to do a little bit more of a structured play, structured activity type of thing. And I kept sharing those activities, and people were asking me to, share. They wanted to see more of that. They wanted to know specifically what I was doing. So this last spring, when my youngest was 1 and my oldest was almost 4, I compiled all of that together that I had done with him over the past year, couple of years, and I put together a full program, which I can talk about a little bit later. But through that, I started sharing that with others, and I had a lot of people. Rowan says the education system is equally frustrating in the UK. I know, it's just getting worse and worse. My husband actually left teaching last year as well to kind of help me full-time at home with what I do now. It's just not, when you know you can't even put your own children in it, it's time to leave. It's an ethical problem. But anyway, yeah, so this spring I put together all of this as one program, and I had a lot of people asking me to share more in a community type setting, and I really wanted to, kind of grow on that mindset of, I wasn't the only one with these problems. I wasn't the only one with these answers. And I wanted to have other people to bounce this off of. I lived in a really small town, not a lot of like-minded people. So I started a Facebook group just sort of on a whim. I had 300 members in 24 hours, and we have almost 2,000 members now. And if you are not already in the group, please do come join us. The link is right there. I'm going to go ahead and type it over in the chat box. It's going to be really loud while I type the microphone to my computer, so just ignore that for a moment. But I'm typing that in there so you can come on over and join us. It's a private group, so I'll have to let you in manually after the webinar's over. But you know, we have, like I said, almost 2,000 people in there sharing all day long. This page moves so fast. It's great. Just parents and teachers and grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends and siblings. We've got moms and dads, just all kinds of people, you know, just sort of coming together and sharing thoughts and ideas and asking questions and supporting one another. It's the most fantastic place on Facebook that I've found. So please do come join us there. If you search, you can find us if you just search Nature Inspired Homeschooling Group. But you can also look there, the bit.ly/nature group. But through this group, I started seeing a lot of the same questions coming up over and over again. So instead of answering them each time they popped up, I decided to start doing webinars like I'm doing right now and just sort of answer them all in one place. So that's why we're here today. One of the most common questions I get asked is, you know, how can I bring nature inside for my kids when we can't go outside, especially now with the cold seasons coming? You know, how can I bring nature indoors? And then I also get asked a lot, sort of what we were talking about earlier. My kids are really bored with their space. How can I make it more exciting and engaging for them? And so what I've done with this webinar, I used to teach this as two separate things. One was how to bring nature indoors, and one was how to set up an engaging space. So I kind of combine them together for this one. So there's going to be a ton of information, and I'm going to share all those most important pieces with you. So if you haven't yet, grab a pen and paper. We're going to get right into it now and get started right away. Do we play the video or is it live? Lauren, this is live right now. So if you're having any kind of like lag in it, you can hit the refresh button and it'll refresh it and catch you up to where I am now. You will get, if you were registered, you'll get a replay sent to you where you can watch it. So, but yeah, hit the play button or refresh your page if you haven't already. But anyway, so what is needed to set up an engaging learning space? We'll get right into the basics. So the first thing is really to keep it simple. And when I asked you earlier, you know, what you felt about your child's space now, a lot of you in the chat box already told me that you feel that it's too cluttered, it's unorganized, and that really is one of the biggest problems. And so that's my first tip for you, is to keep it simple. You want your space to be child-friendly, uncluttered, easily organized. And really you need to think about a child's attention span is generally a good way to figure it out is their age plus 5 minutes. So if you have a 4-year-old, for example, you add 4 and plus 5. So a 4-year-old's average attention span is about 9 minutes. So if you think about all of the activities that are in your play space right now, and when your child walks in and sees this, you know, every 9 minutes, their attention's going to shift, basically. So if there's way too many things in there for them to want to or be able to engage with, it's going to just be completely overwhelming for them. And that's why you see that shutting down, and the child just says they can't find anything to do, or they don't have anything to do. And it's not that there isn't anything for them to do, it's that there's too much for them to do. So really, you know, dialing back and, you know, keeping things down to a point where the child should be able to organize it themselves. And earlier somebody in the chat box said that when it's untidy, it feels like it's a mess and disorganized and not really that engaging of a space. So you want to cut it back to only enough activities that your child's able to keep it organized themselves, and that it doesn't reach that point of feeling like a total disaster. And one of the ways you can accomplish this, one of the best ways to accomplish this, is by decluttering and setting up a toy rotation system, which I'm going to give you more details on here, and then utilizing activity shelves. And that's kind of like a Montessori type idea, more in a Waldorf style as well. But that's one way you can do that. So for decluttering tips, you want to remove any materials that are not flexible. And what that means is a flexible material is something that can be used in more than one way. So like a jigsaw puzzle, for example, is not flexible because there's only one way that it can go together. It's either right or it's wrong. And you want your learning space to be filled with flexible materials. So go through, I recommend starting with, like there at the bottom, I say 2 bins. So go into your learning space, you got a donate bin and a rotate bin. So first of all, if you find an activity or toy that really is not imaginative, it doesn't promote creative thinking, it's not a flexible thing, and this would be like your character toys or things that your child really doesn't play with anymore. Those things, just get them out of there. You don't have to hold on to them if they don't have sentimental value. Just really throw those in a donate bin and just get them out of the space. I bet you find your child won't even miss them. And then for the rest of the materials, you just want to cut it back. So I'm not saying to get rid of puzzles. Those are really great things. My son loves puzzles, but I don't have them out for him all the time because we have a bunch of them. They get bored. They're not creative thinking or too much problem solving outside of just putting it together in the right or the wrong way. So I put those in the rotate bin. And those are things that get rotated every week, every other week, depending on their attention span level. So you want your learning space filled with accessible activities, organized and open-ended activities so that they kind of have the freedom to go in. They don't have to ask you for help to get something out or to start an activity. You want it to be there for them to be able to just engage and play when they're ready and motivated. So after you've gone through and you've got your donate pile and you've got your rotate pile, and you kind of left out a lot of those things that are there all the time, you want to set up a toy rotation system. And this is something that, it takes a little bit of time up front, but it's super easy to do, and it really is, it's a lifesaver because it's going to make your child feel like there's something new every week. So, again, we've talked about having too many activities and too many options causes overwhelm, and then like a shutdown. A lot of children, it can even cause an anxiety. So cutting it back to only a few activities on a shelf, a couple of different spaces, which we'll talk about. And then the rest, everything you've kind of pulled out that they aren't going to have access to all the time, you can put into rotation systems. And the way that we do it specifically is we have 4 different totes, and I keep those in a closet away from the playroom. They don't have access to them. I keep them in like my linen closet. And we put different variety of toys in each rotation box. So I might have inside one box, I'll have, jigsaw puzzles and different kinds of art activities, and, maybe different books, even if I've cut their bookshelf back, their collection back, different kinds of blocks, different imaginative toys, different, figures or animal play, whatever. Just lots of different types of activities in one bin. And then each week, or whenever they start to get a little bit bored, so between 7 to 10 days, I'll go in on, in the evening, and I'll just rotate. I'll dump out a tote and I'll put all those things on, and I'll pull out a lot of the things that they've been starting to get bored with or that they're not really playing with anymore, and we'll just switch that out, and that bin goes at the end of the rotation. So every week for a month, you can have new activities rotating through a playroom for your child, and it's something to keep them engaged all the time. And then a little bonus tip I throw in here is something called daily quiet boxes. And this is something I discovered when my youngest was born. When he was a newborn and my husband was working full-time still, and my son was not quite 3. And it was crazy because I still had a business going. I was running a business, and I was a newborn mom, and like I said, my husband was working, and then my oldest son needed something to do, and he had just given up daily naps. So there was nothing to entertain him all day. And he still needed that quiet time. And even now at 4, he still needs that hour or so in the middle of the day where he just needs to kind of dial it back and calm down a little bit. So something that we introduced was called a daily quiet box. And what I did was I timed it with setting up this toy rotation system because it was easy then when I kind of had everything that we have out in one space. And so I have 5 different little baskets, one for each weekday. And at the beginning of the week on a Sunday, I'll switch out those baskets, and I'll put things like quiet books, sensory bottles, maybe like little lacing cards, any kind of quiet and calming activity, just a couple in each basket. And when it's time for that quiet time of the day, when I really need to get something done, or with the newborn, in that case, when the baby was taking his nap, and the oldest was still full of energy, I would give him this quiet basket. And it was something that he could sit down with. Often I'd give him a snack with it, and he could sit and just be calm and quiet. A lot of times he'd even fall asleep just playing with those activities or reading his books. But that's just a little tip I want to throw in there for you, because they can be a lifesaver if you've got a lot going on or multiple kids and you just need to get something done. So set that up while you're doing your toy rotation system, and it's a great way to get going there. So I just want to check in with you guys. How you doing? The chat box has been quiet. I just want to make sure everybody's still still following along with me okay. So if you're doing all right, let me know down there in the chat box, and I'm going to keep going because I'm still at the earliest stages here. I want to get going a little bit faster. So increasing natural light is the next step, and that can literally make your child happier by opening up light in the space. So doing as much as you can to brighten up the space will go a long way towards bringing that natural feeling in and getting, you know, your child engaged in their space. So no matter what kind of room you're in, as long as you have even one little window, you can play some tricks to get the light feeling like it's bouncing around a little bit more. So mirrors is one way that you can do that. Obviously mirrors will bounce the light around the room. So hanging them down at your child's level, even integrating them into their child's learning or into your child's learning activities is a great way to use the mirrors. Putting them on the tables underneath the activities that they're doing, setting them up against the back of the table behind the activities that they're doing can really go a long way towards engaging the activities, because they can see, if you think about it, if you put the mirror on the table and they work on top of the table, they kind of get a whole new view of what they're working on, and it's increasing natural light. So mirrors are a great thing to introduce into the space. Keeping an eye on your window treatments. Hanging dark or heavy curtains is going to limit the amount of natural light coming in. So if you have to hang curtains, do something that's really light and maybe even sheer to let as much of the natural light in as possible. And depending on the space that you're in, if you have the ability to, you know, paint or, you know, maneuver those kinds of things, having light colored walls and floors really brightens up the space a lot and makes it feel like there's more natural light in there. So if you can paint the walls lighter colored, if you can't change your floors, adding like a white area rug in the middle of it can really make a big difference as well. And then intentional lighting, I'm going to come back to the strategic furniture placement there, but intentional lighting means avoiding those overhead lights, especially if they're fluorescent. Please don't use fluorescent lights in your child's learning space if you can avoid it at all. It actually inhibits the way that we learn visual information in the brain. So get those overhead lights off, especially get those fluorescent lights off. If you have to increase the light with fake lighting inside, use lamps and different kinds of, like Christmas lights are really great to use. It's nice soft lighting, but definitely avoid those, the fluorescent lighting if you can. And then with strategic furniture placement, what that means is watching a room throughout the day to see. Now, I like to use the analogy of a gardener. When you're first setting up a garden plot, you're going to watch that space throughout the day or maybe a couple of days to see where the light hits at different points of the day so that you know where is best to plant your garden, right? Or your different kinds of crops, because some things need more light than others. And you can do the exact same thing inside with your child's space, watching the room throughout the day, maybe just with a little notebook every hour, just kind of taking note of where the light hits. And then you're gonna move your furniture around to make the most of that light. And the first time that I taught this, actually, a lot of this information I teach as a course, a professional development course. And the first time that I taught this, I had a woman who was amazed. She took like 1 million pictures and showed me. She was amazed that she ended up putting the most unimportant things in the most light in her space. She had, like, you know, the storage unit and the bookshelf and just other pieces that totally didn't matter to the child. She had those taking up most of the light in the room throughout the day. And just by watching that and moving those things to different parts of the room, and then putting like the child's reading space and the activity table and the art center, moving those into the light made all the difference in the world in her space, just by moving a couple of pieces of furniture around more strategically. So that's one thing that's easy to do. It doesn't cost anything, and it really can make a big difference. So another thing is setting up multiple spaces. So even if you're in an apartment or a tiny space, there's still ways that you can give your child multiple opportunities to learn and explore, and that's by different types of spaces. So for example, in our playroom, just in the one, now it's not a big room, just in the one room, we have one area that's dedicated to an art center. We have a light table on one side, and then we have like an activity table. We have a building center or station that's down on the floor, like on a low platform, so they can build down on the ground. And then in another area of the house, just integrated, it's actually in our living room, integrated within the family space, is a quiet reading nook. So there's lots of opportunities for my child or my children to engage and play within the home, and it doesn't have to be separated from the space. Your children are part of the family as well, so there's no reason why their little activity centers can't be integrated right in the family space, in the dining room, in the kitchen, in the living room, wherever. And one thing that I definitely recommend you include is a personal quiet space. I assume that most of us are working with younger children here, and the preschool and early elementary years are really emotionally trying time. Developmentally speaking, at that age is when their brains are growing so fast and they're learning new things every single day, and their bodies are growing and are able to do more things every day, but their emotional growth is nowhere near as fast as their physical and their mental growth. So they get frustrated and they don't know how to deal with that, or they get angry or upset and they don't know how to deal with it. And that's why we have things like tantrums and lashing out, and just crying fits that seem like they're over nothing. But really it's because all of those fits or tantrums, or whatever term you want to put on it, those happen because the child is overwhelmed with emotions and they don't know how to handle it, because they're not developing their emotional capacity as fast as their physical and their mental capacity. So one of the best things that I found to help a child through that, with my son specifically, was giving them a space in the home where they could go, or he could go, and just kind of be away. He felt safe, he felt comfortable, but he didn't have to engage with those too many emotions all at once. And the way that we did this specifically was inside the playroom. We actually took off the closet door. We hung some twinkly lights and some sheer curtains on there, and we put like comfortable pillows and blankets on the floor, and some of his favorite loveys. And I have a little basket there that just has some like some sensory bottles that he can look at, basically just bottles with oil and glitter inside that he can kind of spin around like a snow globe, just to help him calm down a little bit. It's just a place that he knows is his. Nobody else is going to bother him there, and he can go and just kind of have that quiet, calm space. And a lot of times that's where I'll give him his daily quiet basket, because it's a space that he feels comfortable and safe and happy in. So that's something, if you haven't set something up like that, I definitely recommend doing. So we're going to keep moving right along here. So another tip is setting up a nature table, and kind of along with that personal quiet space, this kind of ties with the number one thing I recommend doing, is setting up a nature table. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically just a small table that's down at your child's level. It's a designated place in your learning space where your child can engage at their own will. They have control over what goes on it, how they investigate it. If you're in a kind of a cramped space and you don't have room for another table, I would say trade this out over any other table that you're putting in. But if you still don't have the space for it, even I have some people that use like an activity cart or a rolling tray, or rolling cart, that they'll, like a bar cart basically, that they can roll up and roll out and use it, and then kind of put it away in a closet, or even just like a large tray that you can put out on the table and just stash it away in a cabinet. Whatever you have to do, give your child a space where they can engage with nature at their own will. And one of the ways that this is set up is basically you don't control what goes into the table, your child does. So when you're out on nature walks, or you're exploring the neighborhood, or you're going on a hike, have your child, give them a designated basket or bag or whatever that they can grab what's interesting to them. And I'm sure you found that this is something your child does anyway. They're lower to the ground, they look around them, they see things that are super exciting to them. My oldest son is really excited about leaves right now. So anytime we're outside, he's gathering all kinds of, various leaves that are interesting to him for whatever reason. So I have a bag for him that he can bring those inside, and they can go to his nature table, and he can investigate those later. And this is a really great and easy way to bring that nature inside, because then it extends that natural investigation once you come in the house, and you really don't even have to do anything to set it up for that. So the child can bring in the natural elements that they want. The only thing that the adult's going to bring to the table is investigation tools. So things like, various bowls and cups for them to sort in. You want to have things like a mortar and pestle, scissors, and maybe like a safe knife that they can cut and break things apart. Magnifying glasses. All those kinds of activity things that they can sort of investigate and take things apart, depending on how elaborate you want to get, maybe a microscope and slides if your child's a little bit older. So just lots of ways that they can continue that natural investigation once they come inside. And then kind of right along with that is incorporating plant life. And that is really just a super easy way, kind of just like the natural light. It's a really easy way to completely change the feel of a space. So, and it's the healthiest thing you can do as well. Plants clean the air. They bring more oxygen in. They make a place feel instantly more natural. They're great space fillers. One of the things you find when you do that first step of decluttering and setting up a toy rotation, so you take out all of those unnecessary pieces, then you're kind of left with sort of an empty feeling space that adults tend to want to fill with stuff or more toys. But now we know, that causes overwhelm. We don't want to do that. So fill those spaces with plants. And you're doing all kinds of, providing lots of green benefits. Choose plants that are easy to grow, that are hardy, that are fun for children to touch and grow and play with. Your kids are going to get into them. Don't fear that. Give them the opportunity to engage with the plants, even at a really young age. And that's how they're going to interact with it. That's how they're going to develop a relationship with nature. And, the absolute worst case, they dump the plant, maybe they kill it, but it's a learning experience, So that's something that I try to avoid people getting upset about. What if my child throws the dirt or dumps the dirt? If you give them the opportunity to engage with them, you'll probably find that won't be an issue. And then if you join, a little bonus tip here for you, if you join the nature Facebook group that I mentioned earlier, there's a link in the chat box. If you join, and if you're watching the replay, the links will be under the video here. But join the Facebook group, and in the pinned post, I have a free gift for joining the group, and it's actually a top 10 best plants for children. And it's a little PDF that you can download right away as soon as you join the group. You get access right away to that. And that gives you 10 different types of plants that are really awesome to have in a learning space. The safest ones, and they're hardy and they're easy to grow, they're tactile and fun to play with. So you head on over to the Facebook group if you haven't yet. And if you're in there and didn't know about this, it's actually in the pinned post. A lot of times those are hidden on the mobile devices. So go to the pinned post there, and you can get access to that freebie right there. Okay, so keep going here. How y'all doing? Let me know there in the chat box. I'm breezing right on through here. So another thing is utilizing natural loose parts. Once you've done that decluttering and you've taken away a lot of those pieces to avoid that overwhelming feeling, I recommend bringing in natural pieces. So this is another really easy way to incorporate nature along with the play area. Bringing in natural loose parts actually fuels and promotes creative thinking. It enhances natural curiosity, and it develops problem-solving skills. Actually, working with loose parts in nature, there's so many research studies about this. It's just fascinating. I actually did a whole webinar just on the research-based benefits of engaging with nature. But one of the things that it does that I find most interesting is engaging with natural elements. It actually helps a child to feel more a part of their social structure and the people, and having connections to people around them. Even if they're playing with the parts by themselves, engaging with nature actually helps them feel more connected to people around them, and it enhances their social development, which is just crazy that nature can do something like that. But if you live in a place where you can't go outside all the time, one great way to keep your child engaged with their learning space is bringing those natural parts inside and incorporating them with your man-made toys. So I'm sorry if you can hear my ducks in the background. My office is right beside our chicken and duck coop, and they are being really loud today. So if you hear random quacking, I do have ducks. So sorry about that. But some of the objects that are great for natural loose parts are rocks of various sizes, tree rounds, twigs and pine cones, tree bark pieces, acorns, seashells if you live near the beach, or even if you don't, you can get them at craft stores, leaves, seasonal objects like gourds and pine branches in the winter. There's really no, this is just a little list here, but basically anything that you can gather outside and bring inside is really an excellent thing to do. And then as far as how to incorporate them, as adults, we kind of have these like segmented ideas of the way that things are supposed to go together. But, you really can put these natural parts right in with the rest of your play space. Set a basket of twigs and rocks next to the building blocks and just watch what your children do. It can be really incredible to see. And then the only thing that separates this from the nature table is that at the nature table, your child's bringing the natural elements that interest them. For the loose parts, you're collecting and gathering those and introducing them into the space. So another tip here is to nix the generic wall art. So when you have a room filled with objects that are down at a child's level, and that's what you want, everything that you want them to engage with needs to be at their eye level or below. So when you have small or short people like children, that tends to leave a lot of empty wall space, which, when we think about a classroom, especially if we're homeschooling, our brains naturally go back to like that classroom feeling. And when we have all these empty walls, our gut reaction is to kind of plaster them with posters and alphabet charts, inspirational, motivational posters, colors, posters, whatever, all this generic wall art that really that's just for you. The space feels impersonal. The child's probably not going to look at it at all unless it's their own art. So one thing that you can do is kind of getting rid of those sort of generic pieces. And if you use nature to fill those gaps, that's a really great way to create sort of a personal and unique and organic feel to the room. And some ways to do that, I say think big, think small, think seasonal. And for that, thinking big would be like hanging a tree branch from the ceiling. Think small would be just putting, small plants on a shelf, any place you have like a small empty space, putting a small piece of nature there. And then think seasonal is, decorating, right now, maybe you decorate with pumpkins or gourds or something like that. So now I've blown all kinds of information your way. So I'm going to show you some photos now that are really inspirational for me and hopefully for you as well. So here are some examples. I'm just going to get right into it for you. We've already been 40 minutes here. I want to get going. So at the top there on the left is something that was shared in my Facebook group a while ago, but this is an excellent example of incorporating natural loose parts along with man-made parts and just sort of setting up that open-ended activity tray. To an adult, I know this looks like, what are you gonna do with that? But think about how that looks to a child. So much learning can happen, and investigation and problem solving and creative thinking is going to happen there. My youngest son in particular would go crazy with an activity tray like this. You've got a mixture of like pine cones and tree rounds and seashells and pasta noodles, but then all kinds of little man-made, like they've got little computer pieces there and washers and nuts and stickers, wine corks, just lots of random pieces thrown together there. It's a perfect example of flexible materials to allow that open-ended play. On the far right is a great example of a nature table. You can see that, this is all kinds of, they've got even some art up on the wall. I'm imagining they put like sticky, like clear contact paper on the wall, but sticking out so the child could sort of stick the leaves right on there. All kinds of materials there for investigation play. You see they've got like paintbrushes and a mortar and pestle and brought all kinds of natural elements and they're sorting them in their own way. So that's a great example of a little nature table. And you can see it's super easy to set up something like that. And then down on the bottom is an example, also somebody from my Facebook group, that I really love this because it's a great example of how they've incorporated their child space right in there with the family space. And I also really love that they put the child's art prominently up on the wall. That's a really great way to showcase the child's work. It shows that they are welcome in the space, that their art is just as important to visitors or anybody that sees it as anybody else hanging something up. So I really love that photo there. Some more pictures here at the top, another from my Facebook group. This is a nature-inspired work table, so you can see keeping it really simple. This was actually this person was studying the bugs theme of the program that I mentioned at the beginning that I'll talk about later. But so just really simple here. They've got plant life, they've even got some bugs there, some stuff that they're studying, real life creatures to keep the space exciting. It's just a great little table area that's good for investigation and reading and working. Really inviting little space there, and using natural elements to kind of decorate the area. Down on the bottom, this isn't the greatest picture, but I like to use it because it's like the best thing that I've found to show what I think is a really important element, and that is keeping things down at the child's level and taking away the chairs. This isn't something that I see very often, but you need to remember that your children, how many of you are telling your child all the time, please sit down, don't wiggle in your chair, or focus and pay attention. And they can't, little bodies wiggle, and that helps them learn by being able to wiggle around freely. So I like this photo because this is a low work table. I imagine this is a light table, but it's down low to the ground. Chairs are taken away so the children can stand, they can sit, they can kneel. There's a pillow there for them to sit on if they want, but taking it down to their level, decorating on their level, and removing the need to sit in a chair is something that's really important. We actually, we have one chair in our playroom, and that's just for if they feel like sitting at the art table, and it's never used. It's almost always tossed to the side at the end of the day. So, give your children that freedom to not have to sit if they don't want to. On the right there is an example. That was my son's first little quiet reading nook that we set up. We just set an aha moment for Lori. Thank you for saying that about chairs. Yeah, take them away. They don't need them. They really, really don't. Let them learn let them stand and jump and wriggle around on the floor if that's how it helps them learn. It just is stressful for the adult, But yeah, so this was, we took a hula hoop apart and we, strung just a sheer curtain on it, suspended that from the ceiling with some twinkly lights. We put a little crib mattress on the floor, and that was a great little space for him when he was, I think, like 16 months. We set that up. And that was just sort of how we introduced the personal quiet space for him before he really needed it on an emotional level. It was a great way to kind of make him already feel like that was a special and safe place for him to go. And then I think this is my last slide of photos. Yeah, so some more photos here. The photo on the top left there is a great example of incorporating plant life. This is actually for a very young child's little play space. I think this is like a 6 to 9 month child space. But you can see they weren't worried about leaving the plants right there at the children's level, and they've got varying heights and different styles of plant life. It's right there. They have a mirror right above, so it's reflecting that natural light. Not a whole lot of activities. It's not overwhelming. So that's just a really great example of incorporating the plant life and the natural light into the space and keeping it organized and decluttered. On the right there is a great example of lots of things. I don't believe that this is a nature table, but you can see another just kind of an investigation tray there where they can, the child can sort and move things around, manipulate the different nature pieces along with man-made pieces. And I really like this photo because you can see it might have been a sort of a dark corner of the room, but by placing a mirror on the back of the table there behind the workspace, they can bounce the light. You can see in the mirror, there's a window directly on the other side. So by putting that mirror there, it bounces the light directly off that window or out of the window onto the mirror and right onto where the child is working. So that's just a really example of utilizing the natural light that you have in a space, even if it's not a lot. And then down there on the bottom is a good example of utilizing big pieces of nature for decoration, for cleaning up those wall spaces. In this case, they are using the branch to hang. I've seen these a lot of the large branches like suspended from the ceiling with, you know, different child's artwork hanging from it or whatever. But I really like this example, excuse me, because they hung, they made it useful as well. They hung a bunch of different like metal kitchen utensils. And this is kind of like a little music space for a very young child to kind of, you know, hit the elements together and make music, or, you know, whatever they do there to make sounds. So I really like that, incorporating nature in a useful but also decorative way. So now that I've thrown all of that at you, what do you do now? So I hope you've been taking some notes so that you're not just like flooded with information. So, you know, take a breath. What small steps can you take right now? And what bigger steps do you need to plan ahead for, maybe for budgeting your time? Now, I say budget and time. Truthfully, I hope going through this, you didn't get a whole bunch of ideas of things you need to buy, because that's not the point. You really shouldn't have to spend a lot of money or any money at all to make changes to your child's learning space. There's things that you should be able to do right now, like, for example, strategically moving the furniture around to make use of more light, for example. And then think about how your plans match your why. And your why would be kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of how your child's learning space feels to you, how it feels to them. Think about how you want it to feel for your child, and that can be your why. And this is something that was from one of the first webinars that I did, that I combined this. So I took that part out for time. But, you know, we talk about setting up a purpose before you really make any big changes, and that way you have something to kind of go towards. So I have a way I can help you here. I have a free action worksheet that kind of goes along with one of the original ways I taught this webinar, so there's even more info in it. So if you go right now to bit.ly/nature hack checklist, you can put your email in and I'll send you this free worksheet, and it kind of goes through all of these steps. It kind of puts everything I've talked about today in like a 10-step format for you, to give you all of those tips again, so to help you plan this out so that you can do this in an actionable way. And just one moment, I'm going to type this in the chat box for you, so you can click on it directly. If you're watching the replay, it'll be underneath there. So bit.ly/nature hack checklist, that'll take you there, so you can download that, and hopefully that'll help you make some of these changes actually happen. I know that we tend to get really excited and maybe even write some things down, but then we don't always follow through with them. So I made this worksheet for you so that you can actually go through and make, you know, think about each of these steps, take some notes, and really go forward with it. So I kind of want to end this part of the webinar with just a reminder that it isn't about the size of the space you have. It's not about whether or not you could post pictures on Pinterest. This is about the learning experience that you're providing for your child. You know, this is a space that needs to be uniquely yours. And previously in some of my webinars, I didn't even share inspiration photos, because I really wanted you to create a space that was uniquely for you and for your child. I kind of changed my mind a little bit, because I know that visual learners sort of need a space, need a way to be able to kind of visualize what I'm talking about, especially when I talk so fast. So I included some of these photos now, but you know, one great thing that you can do is have your child help put the space together, especially if they're a little bit older. You know, what you might think works maybe won't. You know, what works for my child won't necessarily work for yours. All children have unique interests. So really, you know, your goal is just to kind of set up a space for your child where you can provide open-ended learning experiences, ideally with nature, that, you know, your child can, you know, you get to set up the structure, and then your child kind of gets to investigate whenever. And whatever is motivating for them. And then you'll be set, and that's exactly what you need. So I know I threw a lot at you today, but I hope I was really able to put it to you in a way that that makes a lot of sense and that is simple and easy to implement. So I'm going to transition a little bit now here, just to talk about going back to the beginning when I introduced myself. I told you that I had put together a program that people had been begging me to do with a lot of the individual activities I was sharing on my blog a couple of years ago. So would you like to learn how to create hundreds of engaging and easy to set up nature-based learning activities for your child? And now that you have this learning space, decluttered and set up, now a lot of times people say, what do I do now? I have the space and it's kind of feeling a little bit empty. What do I put on the shelves? So I have the answer for that for you. And then how would it feel to be a part of a thriving, supportive community with hundreds of other families joining you on this journey? So these are two questions that I can answer right now for you. So the program that I put together this spring was called A Child's World, and it's a nature-inspired pre-K and K curriculum. And I initially released it this past spring. I kind of just put it out there to a select number of people. I had them test it out for me. Everybody loved it and raved about it, and they sent me back some of their feedback. I completely revamped it and I released it again this past September. And then I started adding more and more pieces like courses and ebooks and magazines and all this other information. And I just kind of got overwhelmed with giving out all of these individual pieces. So I decided that the easiest thing to do would be to just put it all together and give everybody everything all in one spot forever. So now I'm not only selling the curriculum, but I'm giving you also lifetime access to everything that I create. So I'm going to tell you how to get that now. But the curriculum itself is kind of the highlighting piece here. And what it is, if you haven't heard about it, it's 20 themes that, like I said, in September, I re-released with new material, new activities. Each of the themes is the themes are all based around nature. So the idea behind the curriculum is that your child can show you what they're interested in on their own, at their own terms. So for example, right now, I mentioned earlier, my oldest son is super excited about leaves and trees because of, autumn is happening and the trees are all dropping their leaves and they're changing colors. So he's really excited about that. So for a parent who has not a lot of time to kind of go investigate activities that they can do with leaves, inside this curriculum, there's a theme for trees. There's also a theme for autumn. So I could go directly to that theme, pull it up, and get out 25 or more activities inside each of the themes to set up right away. They're easy to set up. All of the activities, with very few exceptions, can be set up just with what's in your kitchen, a general home and kitchen and art space. So for the most part, there's not a whole lot of prep that's necessary. I wanted this to be able to be accessible and easy for you to use as soon as you needed it. So the 20 themes are all based around nature, things like trees, rocks, bugs, birds, ocean animals, colors in nature, light, space, which is what I'm studying with my son right now, on top of the trees, because he's starting to get interested in constellations. So we're kind of doing a little bit of both there. And then all 4 of the seasons, rainforest animals, I can't even remember them all, but basically anything in nature that your child could be interested in, I have a theme for it here. And then inside each of the theme is 25 activities that are kind of cross-curricular to help you span everything. Thank you, Lauren. But you get nature explorations, and in that I show you ways to have your child investigate what they're interested in your own backyard. So ways to go explore in nature and investigate specifically what they're interested in. So for example, if they're interested in birds, inside the bird theme, I have 5 different activities for exploring your own backyard, your own neighborhood with birds in mind. There's art activities, math extensions, so using nature. I really, really don't believe in having a child sit at a table and do worksheets to learn math, especially when they're younger. Same with reading, same with anything. It's not the way that a child's going to authentically learn the information. So by using play and natural elements, you can really build all of these building blocks for math and reading and learning science and things by investigating with nature. I firmly believe that, and that's why I set up the curriculum this way. But math extensions, sensory play ideas, science experiments, of course. I have themed book lists. So inside, at the beginning of every theme, I list my favorite books Thank you, Lori. Inside, yeah, I have a list of books for each of the themes, my favorite books, and a literature focused lesson to kind of help you change the way you read and engage with your child when you're reading without having to like drill these, phonics skills that can be overwhelming for parents and children. And then I have a kid-friendly recipe at the end of every theme because I really also am passionate about the childhood obesity epidemic right now, and sort of the removal of understanding of food from the way that we teach our kids. And there's really good research showing now that if a child is a part of the way that if a child has a hand in growing their food and creating their food, and working together with the parent to cook their own food, they actually develop healthy eating habits that last for the rest of their lives. So there's really simple ways that you can include your child in the kitchen and sort of build those healthy eating habits forever. So I include a recipe that is easy for the child to help you make. It is healthy. There's very little or no sugar, no food dyes, and it's based on the theme. So it's really fun to create. And then now what I've added is lifetime access to everything. So you get access, you get a link to a download, but it's also always available online so that you can pull it up on your phone, you can pull it up on your tablet. If you're at the library and want to get some books, I do that a lot. I'll just go to the library and I can pull up the theme right on my phone, so that I can get the books that I need to do the theme. Or if I'm at the craft store, I want to pick up a couple of things, it's really great to access it that way. So you don't just have to print it or carry a book around or anything. And then also at the beginning of the whole curriculum is an instructional guide. And that just kind of has lots of basic information for you. Tips on setting up a learning space, how to make a plan, how to follow your child's lead, how to be safe in nature, the research-based benefits of nature, just a little 10-page guide on getting started, basically. And then, those are all the things that you get, but it's really important also to talk to you about what you create and what you can inspire. So when you get to use this curriculum, you inspire a sense of wonder and excitement in your child for the world around them. And I really believe that children are born with an innate curiosity about their world. So by being able to foster that excitement about nature in an easy way for you to incorporate that, it's really wonderful what you can set up. You get over 500 unique activities, so you could do one thing every day for a year and a half and never run out of ideas. There's so much packed in here. You get to design a tailored learning experience around your child's interests, because this isn't set up in it's like a strict lesson plan way. It really takes all of that, the unfun stuff of learning, out of it. I don't believe in any of that for really young kids. They should be playing. They should get to follow their interests. And this is set up in a way that none of it builds on each other. They get to follow their own lead. So you don't have to study trees before you study birds. You can pull a theme that's directly related to your child's individual interests at the time. And then you get, engaging nature explorations, art activities, messy sensory play, joyful reading experiences, cooking fun, all kinds of great things that you get to create and inspire with your child when you use this. So I do want to give you just a little peek here of what it looks like on the inside. Obviously it's over 500 activities, so I can't show you the whole thing. But here on the far left, you can see there's an example from the introduction that I mentioned. I just kind of talk about setting up a learning space. If you can read the fine print, you see that I talk about like a nature table, art space, quiet space, outdoor spaces, just lots of little tips, kind of like today's webinar in print, just sort of talking about lots of ways you can get started. In the center here, you see this is an example from the rocks theme. I start each theme with an overview, gives you a purpose for teaching, sort of a why this is important for children to learn, a key learning, which is basically a one-sentence thing that by the end of the theme, this is the one thing that a young child should be able to understand and walk away with. I give you some focus words, basically some vocabulary to use over and over again to help your child sort of build their learning blocks about the subject. And then the next page of that would be like the literature list and the focused lesson for reading. And then on the far right, you see there's an example of an activity page. So from the spring theme, this is an example of the nature explorations page. And you can see this is sort of how I outline each of the activities. I give you lots of detail about how to set it up, what it's good for, how your child can use it, how and when to use it. So there's some information there. And then, like I mentioned, now instead of just the curriculum, you get everything that I've created, everything that I've already created and everything that I'm going to create. So ebooks come along with it now. The ones that I already have up are how to develop your child, or how to discover your child's learning style. This book has like information on each of the unique learning styles. There's a quiz that you can take for your child on how to discover what that learning style is, and then how to teach to it the best. And then I have a preschooler's cookbook, which is just another way to kind of extend that fun learning. It's basically 30 more healthy recipes that your child can help you do that are different than the ones from the theme. So you end up with 50 recipes altogether. And then Stuck Inside is just kind of a fun activity guide there, 30 activities to engage your kids when you're stuck inside and you're bored and you don't have anything to do. It's a rainy day or plans got canceled and you just need something. That's a book that you can go to. You don't have to have a lot or any additional elements or pieces. You can just throw something together right there. And then I've put together virtual training e-courses. I have a whole list of courses that I'm building, but they're all 10-day courses packed with information. And I have 4 that are already available that are going to be on the website. A Nature Hack Your Learning Space, which is sort of like what we went over today, only tons more in depth. And it's day by day to help you make the changes. I have a Create a Literacy-Rich Learning Environment, which is a 10-day course on how to change your environment to make it really rich in literacy, to kind of build those early literacy blocks in unique and meaningful ways, not in like, drilling kill with the letter recognition and sound recognition. Homeschooling 101, which is a 10-day e-course that kind of answers all of those questions that you have as a beginner, or somebody getting, if you're nervous about the idea, or you just aren't sure about the legal aspects, or curriculum, or planning, or scheduling, or socialization. I just kind of address all those big questions in that 10-day course and give you all the information you need there. And then using technology in meaningful ways is another 10-day course that I just developed, which kind of helps you address the idea of screen time and what does the research really show. What are I give you some of my favorite ways and websites to use for kids, and talk about setting boundaries and being safe on the internet. So lots of good information in that course as well. So these are all, I've gotten nothing but positive reviews about the people that have taken these. And like I said, you get access to all of them for free. So that's part of the membership. And then you also get community access. Like I said, that's really important to me. So you have a private Facebook support group only of members who are using the curriculum, going through these courses, a place for all of us to come together and share. We're going to do monthly live virtual hangouts. I'm going to do the courses that I mentioned. I'm going to do them yearly as live runs so that you can have my input along the way. I have monthly guest presenters set up to talk about lots of different things to kind of give you even more information. I've put together a beta test, and I'm going to release the first one in December, but I have a kids e-magazine that's going to be coming out quarterly, hopefully eventually monthly as I get more information for them. But I have that coming out that you'll get access to. And I just want to share with you from the Facebook group that we have now for people who have been going through the program and sharing a lot of what they've been doing. This is what the feed looks like every day of people just sharing the activities. So you can see, I love the one on the left there with the little boy there studying space, doing the space theme and talking about, the little boy says his mom is so funny and he wants to grow up and be a teacher like her. That post, I love to share that because it almost made me tear up every time I see it. But you can see the kids just doing all of the activities from the various, you've got space on the left, colors theme in the middle, bugs on the top, you've got autumn on the bottom over there. And this is just what the Facebook group looks like right now, just people sharing all day long these wonderful photos of their kids working through the curriculum together. It's just a fantastic community. And it's really great to be a part of and share that together. So how can you get that now? So you can get the lifetime access today, one payment of $129. But if you're here live, that's for everybody. That's the general price. I'm going to put the link there in the chat box. If you want to click on over and read more, you can get a free sample over there. It's $129 right now. The website for access to all of the additional pieces. So you get the curriculum right away. That's done. It's ready to go out. The membership portal is still being built. It's due to be released and finished no later than the 15th. That's my goal. I hope to get it done a little bit sooner. But that releases on the 15th. And when you have, you'll get access then with its private, password protected. And After it is released, the price is going to go up significantly. You know, I'm kind of doing a discount now, building up to that. So, you know, don't hesitate because the prices will go up on this. But if you're joining me live today, I want to give you a bonus for joining me because, you know, you took the time to join me live today and listen to me talk about it. So I have a fast action bonus. So 2 things. If you order before the webinar is over, you pay only $110. And you should see on the page there at the bottom, there's a little timer countdown. As long as I'm talking here, I think I'm going a little over my time. So even if the timer is kind of running down to the last couple of minutes, as long as I'm talking, that'll still be good. But if you order before the webinar is over, I cut the price down to $110. So you can get almost a $20 discount just for joining me live. And if you click through there, it'll take you to the page. It'll still say $129 on the page, but the link that I sent you to, if you check out through the page, it'll take you down to $110 when you pay. So you get that $20 discount for joining me live, and you also will receive PDFs of the schedules that I'm putting together. And I'm putting these together for the original Facebook group, but you can get them too if you join today before the webinar is over. So you get a schedule of each. If you can see here an example of like the space schedule. So it breaks it up for you over a 10-day period, how I kind of combine the activities when I work through them with my son. So the different stories to read and the activities that kind of go best with them, and then a little bit of additional activities at the bottom. And that link, ignore that, that's actually wrong. Don't use that link. Use the link that's in the chat box, the bit.ly/CFB preschool. There it is. So you get lifetime access, everything that I talked about, and then everything that I create in the future. And I have so many wonderful things on the books, and the price is only going to go up as I add more to it. I have curriculum for higher level kids on the books. My husband and I are actually working on a writing workshop for older kids, like 3rd through 12th grade. And we've got all kinds of more e-courses coming and lots of presenters that are going to bring you more information outside of just what I can bring you. I'm teaming up with people. We've got the e-magazine coming out. I don't even have a list in front of me of all the things that are coming that are going to be on that membership portal for those of you that join now while it's lifetime access. So it's $129. You can click right through to the link there in the chat box. If you're on the replay, you don't get that $110 anymore price. That's just for the live viewers. But you can join right there, the bit.ly/CFB preschool, and get in right now through that. And now I do want to do a Q&A with you so you can throw your questions in the chat box there. But I'm going to leave this page up so you can sort of see how to get over there. And as long as I am talking, this $110 price will be good. But otherwise, we are going to just answer some questions. And then when the webinar is over, that price will go back to the $129 for now. And then when the membership portal releases, that will go up significantly. So don't wait. But I would love to answer any questions you have now about the program, or the membership, or the Facebook group, or anything that we talked about today. Any questions you have about sort of making those changes to your learning space. So feel free to throw those in the chat box. As long as there's some questions rolling in, I'll keep talking to kind of extend that opportunity for you to check out there and get that discount. One of the questions that I get a lot, I know there's a lag, so I'm going to go ahead and answer a question that I get very frequently. And if you have any other questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat box. But one of the questions I get a lot is with the natural loose parts and sort of how to avoid just kind of creating a mess and having your floor look like the forest at the end of the day. And one of the big things that you have to worry about with natural loose parts is introducing little critters into your learning space. I actually found this out the hard way. The first time that I was, playing around with all of this natural loose parts stuff, I brought a basket of acorns in for my son. I think he was about 2. And we played with the acorns and we had lots of fun with it. And then I just kind of left the basket there overnight. And then the next morning, the basket was full of maggots, and it was pretty nasty. So it kind of made me want to never do that again. But I learned the hard way that flies and other kinds of bugs lay their eggs in the cracks of acorns, and probably lots of other natural pieces too. But don't let that freak you out. It's a really easy solution that I just wish I had known at the time. So hopefully I can save you the trouble. But there's 2 ways to get rid of unwanted critters in your natural loose parts. And the first way is basically you either freeze them or cook them. If you spread out all of the elements or the natural pieces on a baking sheet and bake them in an oven at the absolute lowest temperature that your oven goes to for about 2 to 3 hours. That'll heat up them enough that it won't like cook them or burn them, but it will kill any eggs that might be inside them. And then the other thing you can do is put them in a Ziploc baggie and throw them in the freezer overnight. And the cold temperature, the extreme cold temperature will and the lack of oxygen from being in the Ziploc baggie, that'll take care of it as well. It'll be the same thing. It's just a matter of time. Obviously, cooking them is a little bit faster. But that's one way that you can prevent anything like that from happening. I know some people just kind of like to see what happens, and it's a good way to investigate, what happens in nature, but maggots is something I just can't do. So that's one tip that I like to share with you there in terms of keeping the space very clean in terms of bringing in the natural elements. But that's one question that I get a lot, so I wanted to answer that one. And if there are any other questions, please throw them in the chat box. If you have any questions along the way, if you're watching through the replay, or if something pops up after the webinar is over today, definitely come back and join the Facebook group. The link was there in the chat box for you. You can find us at the Nature Inspired Learning Group on Facebook. Come over there. I'd love to have you there. It's a great community, and I can answer any questions you have in there. You can tag me there. I check in every day pretty much. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. So the 110 price is going to be going away now for those live viewers. So if you haven't done that and you want to, go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, the price is going to go back up and that freebie is going to disappear. But those of you watching the replay, all of the links are below. If you follow that link there, the bit.ly/CFB preschool, you can get a free sample of the curriculum if you want to check it out first. And there's lots of other information there about what you get. Thank you for joining me. Love the curriculum. So excited for the site to launch. Thanks, Kelsey. Thank you for all of you who are kind of my loyal followers who joined me today. I hope you learned some more. And thanks for sharing the good word about my curriculum. I love to hear and see, like I shared with you some of the photos from the Facebook group. I just love to see it being used, because these were all things that I did with my own son, and to be able to see it being enjoyed by other people is just fantastic to me. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got a lot of information. Please go make sure you get that free checklist. The link is below in the replay and there in the chat box if you're watching this live, and then you can still check out there with the $129 price as soon as I end the webinar today. So thanks again for joining me. Follow in the Facebook group. I'm sure I'll do another webinar soon with other great information. If you have something you really want to learn about, let me know over in the Facebook group and I'll see what I can put together. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. Have a great day. Thanks. Oh, okay. Before I end, I have a question there popping through. Okay, so Brenda says, I'm actually a center director and teacher. Would the curriculum or your membership benefit me, or am I still allowed to purchase it? Brenda, absolutely. I actually have, I would say probably 20%, if not more, 20 to 25% of the people who have already purchased are center directors or teachers, and they're using this with their kids. I have a whole bunch of like home daycare provider teachers who are using this, or daycare centers. The membership comes with lots of training courses, which are really great to use for if you have maybe staff who don't have a lot of training under their belt. There's great information that you can use for them, and then the ebooks are there. So yeah, it's absolutely something that that center directors and teachers and daycare providers and preschool providers can use. And you'll find a lot of times you might even find even more benefit. And really the activities can easily be used for one child versus 4 or 5 at a time. The only difference is how much you bring to the how much what's the word I'm looking for? How many pieces you need to put the activity together, basically. But yes, it's definitely something that would still be beneficial to you. I have a very good big portion of my membership is already people who are center directors or teachers and running home providers. Love Nature, I'm not sure your actual name, but thank you. This says this was really good. I'm really happy you were able to join me today, and I hope you got some great information for it. So yeah, Brenda, definitely. I'll leave you a couple more minutes here for you to make a decision then at that 110 price. I'll go ahead and turn off my microphone. I'm dying for a drink here. But yeah, definitely something that a center director or a teacher would, thank you for asking that. It's a great question. Yeah, even if you're not homeschooling, this is great for kids of any age. So you can absolutely get lots of great benefits from this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll turn off my microphone. I'll let you guys, I'll leave this link up for maybe a couple more minutes. I'll take it to 20 past to give you a chance to get that discount then. I know there's a lag here. So I'll leave it up for a couple of more minutes to give you the chance to join if you would like to. And otherwise, if you have any more questions, throw them up in the chat box and I'll either pop back in on the microphone or I'll answer you there in the chat box. All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.